my notes. So I work at Brookhaven National Laboratory, and this is in New York, on Long Island, and I'm part of the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope camera development team. Most of us, I think, around here right now in town this week are part of that group. Yes, and I'm also on the board of directors of a public observatory. Also on Long Island in New York, and I think I'm a bit of a nerd, and my colleagues know this because I named many of the LSST test cameras after characters from the 90s Star Trek series. So like, well, okay, I won't go any further than that. But you can probably tell I'm a nerd because I cut my own hair, and it's probably pretty obvious. So it's pretty. Sorry. Okay. I thought I should point that out because it's pretty embarrassing. We have a pretty rich scientific history on Long Island. Einstein lived there, and Nikolai Tesla was there. Marconi, Watson, Crick discovered the double helix structure of the DNA, the first transatlantic commercial radio station and research facility was built there, actually in my hometown. And we have all these universities and Brookhaven National Laboratory, where I work, on LSST. But I want to tell you, so I work in astronomy instrumentation, and I'm more of an engineer than anything. But I think I can tell you some interesting things about this observatory where I volunteer, and I'm on the board and all that. And it's a not-for-profit organization. So it's not-for-profit. It's volunteer only. There's no paid employees, and it's called the Cluster Institute. And it happens to be situated directly across the street from a Native American Indian museum. So I don't know. So being a non-for-profit volunteer organization with Big Telescope, we attract all sorts of people for our volunteer base. Let me say this way, the personalities we attract tend to be interesting and in a good way, right? But we are also open to the public on Saturday nights. We have public nights, it's a Saturday crowd, and the people who come to us on Saturday nights represent, it's a whole spectrum of different personality types, and they I think represent a cross-section of scientific and astronomical literacy, at least on Long Island, at least in my region. So you have families coming in who just want affordable entertainment for the evening, usually with a screaming kid. We're situated in the middle of a bunch of farms and vineyards, and the vineyards all have an open tasting room on Saturday night. So we have people who've been drinking a lot of wine, and that's always fun, and especially in a crowded dome, right? Then you have college students, you have parents trying to foster a true decent interest in their kids in astronomy, and you have the curious loners, and actually most of our volunteer base is probably drawn from that category, myself included at the time. Separate among all these different categories, we have the specifics. But first, let me go more. What I'm going to say is going to be really slightly with what Charlie said, and I'm just going to go out there and say it because I already thought about it and saying yeah, but what Charlie told us was pretty impressive, and so anyway, take it how you want. But I'm going to go on with what I was going to say, which is that peppered among all these different personalities, you have a type of individual I would characterize as being the opposite of a skeptic. You have what do I mean by skeptic? A skeptic, I mean this in a good way. I mean someone with you know, a healthy instinct for questioning their world and asking questions about it and trying to come to conclusions about it and being objective and all that stuff. But so what is the anti-skeptic? The anti-skeptic is the opposite of that. And a common kind of occurrence at this observatory, Kessler Observatory, is that, you know, one of these people, someone will catch your gaze from across the room and I'll come up to you and I'll sidle up and say, you know, they'll say something like, so they're out there. and I'll say, what, who's out there? and I'll say, you know, and really just, you know, conspiratorial kind of tone, which is fine, you know. and to be clear, what I'm talking about isn't people who believe that there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe and setting and all that, you know, very reasonable stuff. I mean, people who, you know, think, who even visited, and we might have been visited, but you know, that was, but for people who just get one glimpse of something they don't understand or can't explain, and then immediately think, okay, there's aliens among us or something like that. I don't have a problem with it. It's a tempting belief for sure, but the belief is just unscientific. And we're a scientific organization, and we're trying to do astronomy outreach and all that kind of stuff. The scientific mentality isn't something that's in the domain strictly of science. It just means being unsensational about things that happen to you, being emotionally detached and being able to look at things with a legitimate eye and say, okay, I think this is what happened. And it applies whether you're driving and dealing with other drivers on the road or looking at lights in the sky. It's just, you know, that's all it is. So the person who's usually running a telescope in the dome on Saturday nights is, well, as of 2 weeks ago, he's my fiance. And his name's David. And so he's usually the one running the telescope. I run it sometimes. It's, you know, all volunteers. And he gets the brunt of these kinds of people who have, you know, interesting experiences and things like that, and people who always saw something, and invariably it always winds up seeming pretty likely that they saw Chinese lanterns or a helicopter flying straight out and with the spotlight on, which can look kind of weird, or the satellite, something like that. And they come up wanting to be qualified, that, you know, they want to hear, yeah, it sounds like you saw a UFO. They want to hear that from someone supposedly who knows about astronomy. And he won't do that, you know. He'll say, oh, sounds like, they'll come up and they'll say, you know what I saw this such and such. And they'll say, well, it sounds like Chinese lanterns or something like that. And I'll say, no, you don't understand. It was not that. It was you know, you don't understand. Oh, and they'll say, you know, there are helicopters on training missions all the time on the rest of the airport. No. It was you don't understand. It was quiet. You couldn't hear them. They were moving in a funny kind of way. They were silent. You know, you couldn't hear them. And if a plane happens to be flying by, I'll say something like, you know, oh, you see that plane up there? You can't hear it, right? And then at this point, they start to get pretty frustrated because it's exasperating trying to convey to someone that you saw something incredible and special, and have them just say, oh, it was probably this. But that's sort of what you have to do until you really have a strong burden of proof with a scientific kind of mindset. So, you know, if we observe something that falls outside of the normal bounds of our experience, what do you do? How do you explain it? Was it a visual artifact? Was it some conventional thing that we happen to see from a strange vantage? You would hear me okay? Yeah, so from a strange vantage point, or was it, you know, a hallucination? Was it it's maybe it was some kind of advanced technology, even that's a stretch, but it could have been some kind of advanced technology that a human was missing, right? But if it's even in the realm, the farthest landscape of conceivability, I think you kind of, if you want to be a healthy skeptic, it's good to just kind of default to the idea that any of those explanations are more plausible, because we haven't made contact, and I'm hoping for it personally, but we haven't, and we don't really have hard proof yet. So this is just a kind of, we've gotten a long way with this kind of mentality in science. Science wouldn't have this incredible, we live in the future now, right? We have smartphones on our wrists and we can talk to them, and there can be self-driving cars pretty soon. Anyway, getting on topic. So it all comes down to personal biases, and you have a strong personal observational bias, and we all have this. And it's a challenge to overcome. You want to smash it with a big hammer, big hammer of logic. You want to be logical people. And there is a well-known story, maybe many of you are aware of it, that in 1877, Giovanni Schiaparelli observed what he observed to be canals on the planet Mars. And all of his contemporaries confirmed this observation. And this went well into the 20th century. People, the scientific community was saying our canals, artificially made canals on the planet Mars. And that probably had a lot to do with the craze in pop culture around the 1900s and after the science fiction literature with Martians and things like that. But it wasn't until, I think it wasn't until photography became more pervasive in astronomy that it became apparent that there was nothing like that. It was just an illusion. It was just people, there's this thing where you're looking for an ideas of optical effects, that your eyelashes can feel and things like that. Anyway, there's some good Carl Sagan quotes about the need to be, if you have a reason to believe something, is to require that much more, I'm not quoting exactly, but require that much more proof in proportion. It's an important thing to do. Because there's Martians and stuff. So, but that's, it could be, right, it could be, not to, and I think, so this next section, running out of time. A few more minutes here. I'll finish with, well, I'm an engineer, so mostly. The anti-skeptical mentality, I think, accounts for a range of beliefs, and it's pretty benign to think about how it goes. But then if you start to get into this ancient alien stuff, then the problem is it leads to a narrower conception of the universe, not a wider one, because people don't realize that humans are capable of inventing things like lasers. They start to say, oh, that's alien technology. People like us come to customer observatory all the time, so I'm sure you people aren't like that, but I'm just, giving examples. Or, as an engineer, I live in a world of the virtual models and design, and I think, wow, the entire Apollo spacecraft was designed with paper and pencil. There was never a computer, right? And this is inconceivable now. And I can imagine kids growing up now and becoming engineers and scientists thinking, oh, they could have crossed the moon with paper and pencil. How could that be? And yet now, we think about the pyramids 5,000 years ago and say, humans couldn't have done that. But a scientific mentality says that a plumb bob and muscle go a long way. It does. So I'm going to conclude with another story from the Observatory. And Paul said, you have to come up here quick. There's something, you have to come up here. So I ran inside, I ran up the 2 flights of stairs, I ran up to the dome. As I got up there, he was finishing building the dome into position. And in the sky was a bright object that looked like a star or a planet. But we knew it wasn't a star or a planet. We know the night sky, and there wasn't anything that was supposed to be there. His initial reaction was, this is Mars. But he knew Mars was further to the south, so that couldn't have been the case. So it was something that wasn't supposed to be there. And that's breathtaking. It's an amazing thing. It's like, oh wow, what is going on? So he gets the thing in the eyepiece, and he's looking at it, and I kind of see in the darkness, I can sense that he doesn't know what to say. So I pushed him out of the way, and I let him try to use. And I regret saying this to say because there are kids in the dome, but I yell out, holy S, you know, it's like, what we were looking at was an iridescent orb, a perfect sphere with an object orbiting it in a horizontal plane, quickly, like once per second, and whoa, what is this, right? So he takes the out, he's back, myself and everyone else in the dome is looking out the dome slit at the sky and just goggling over it, and eventually he says, oh, it popped. So apparently it popped, and it was pretty apparent at that point that it was a balloon. And it was night, and it was pretty bright. So thinking about this a little bit more carefully, the object that was orbiting it seemed to be a radiosonde, a probe that hangs from the bottom of the weather balloon. And we were looking slightly up at it, so it must have been swinging pretty fiercely. It was moving inside and outside the bounds of the orb on either side, and our minds kind of filled in the blanks and made it look like it was an object orbiting this thing. And the objects in the telescope rotate the image by 90 degrees, so it looked like it was orbiting in the other plane. And so it all was coming together. And then we later found out that these other balloons, which often to be launched by Brookhaven Lab where I work 30 miles away, were all 50,000 feet, and it was in the sunlight at the altitude, even though the sky was quite dark. So at least in this case, it was a weather balloon.